All right. Hi, everyone. I guess my voice is getting captured. Yeah, it is. And I'll then now be sharing my screen. So this is my screen. I am currently in the I'm currently in the week 8. That is this tailwind class. Basically, I have completed this thing, and now I'm in the paytm front end part. This part. So I'll just be describing my code, and this is how it goes. I wish the recording doesn't stop. All right. So this is the basic folder structure. That is, the front end is over here. Backend is over here. I have nothing basically over here in the front end. I'm just going to talk about the backend. Now, in case of backend, we have this index.js file where I've imported all those modules, all these modules, and then I have just wherein I have imported all these modules and I have then uh, used this course error. For the course error I've used this middleware, and then for the body parser, and this is for the routing, that is API slash v1 slash API slash v1, and then I have just made a mongoose connection, right? And then this is getting to this the index.js. Now the slash user, that is this endpoint, is going to handle this thing. So this is the user sign up schema wherein I have made this sign up route, this sign in route, this update route, and this bulk route. So this route, these are the routes I have done. I have done the validation using Zord. So this is the thing. Now this is sign up. I have taken the credentials, username, password, first name, and last name from the. Oh, all right. Let me first show the model. This is the model that I am using, right? I have made this model. This is the user schema model, that is the first name, which contains the first name, the last name, the password, and the username, right? This needs to, and most importantly, this username, it needs to be unique, right? So this is the user schema, and then I've just made a model and then just exported it. Similarly, I have made account schema, that is for the basic transactions in the database, and then I've just converted it into a model and then just exported it all. Now let's move to the user schema. So I have just validated it using the user sign up, user schema sign up basically, and then the router dot post. This is the sign up route. This is the sign up route to where it is going. This is the try catch block. Now I have just fetched all these from the request body, and then username, password, first name, last name, all these things have been done, all these validations have been done, that all fields are required, and then I validated it using Zord. And then I'm just finding out whether that user particularly exists in the database or not, and then if it exists, just put the error message. Else just create the user in the database, and then just create the data user in the database along with some or the other transaction, like transaction should be made, like an entry for the transaction must be created in the account database, right? I also have the database. I'll just be showing it to you, and then I have just assigned in a token, and then just passed it over here. So this is the thing. Now if I close this, then comes the sign in route. So this is the basic sign in route where I am taking the username and the password, and then just validating if it everything is found, and then I am again validating it using Zord, and then if it is a success, then it's fine, else it will just pull down an error. Now this is the find one, like I am finding out whether that user exists or not, else it will just say that it is invalid, and then my password will be found out. If the passwords they don't match, by the way, I did not hash anything. By the way, I have not yet hashed anything. I haven't hashed anything. I mean the password, I haven't hashed it. I've just stored it inside the database. I mean, I could have hashed it using some SHA 256 algorithm, or like bcrypt, some external third-party libraries, but like I did not feel like doing it. I'm just uh, doing it for the sake of doing, that's it. So I did not hash the password, just kept it inside the database in that way. And then I have just I'm just assigning in the user ID, and then I have just sent it in the token. So this is done. Now the sign in route is done. Now in the case of updating thing, so firstly the user needs to be logged in, so that's why I have put a middleware here. Now let's explore the middleware. So I have just taken out the authentication bearer token from the request.headers, and then when we have this bearer token, we have that inside the token variable. Now when we have this token variable, so inside of it we have that underscore id for the particular user who has been currently logged in. So I'll just verify his token along with the JW secret that I am having, and then if it does not match, I'll just say it's not matching. Else I'll just make a variable that is user id, and then just put the verification inside it, right? And then this is the work of the middleware. Now there comes this thing, right? So what have I done is, firstly I have safe passed it. Firstly I have safe passed it using the Zord validation, and then just take that particular user ID, and then just update it with the request.body. That's why I have used this built-in feature of the MongoDB, that is find by ID and update. So this is the, and if it gets updated, it will just return user updated successfully. Now how can I get this in bulk? So this is the route that I have used, that is slash bulk, that is the get route, right? So I have used this filter thing. When I'm taking out the filter thing, I'm storing it inside the filter variable. That is basically the input that needs to be given, on the basis of which the search needs to happen. And then I have just found out whether the first name might match, or maybe in the case of first name, some of the initial or the final letters of the first name might match, or uh, in the first name, any, like, if there are four to three middle characters which are matching, like any character inside that first basic first name, if it matches, then definitely I'll get something, right? So that is the thing which I am doing over here, and then it gets stored inside the find users variable as an array, and then I'm just mapping it out, and then just returning it on the response side. So this is the thing which I have done. Now let's move on to the accounts thing, right? So firstly I need to be authenticated. This is for sure that I need to be I just need to be authenticated, right? Else how am I going to transfer it? So I just need to be authenticated in the very first place, and then I'm just creating an account. I'm just finding an account, account whether that user ID exists in that like basically the user ID that has come from the request, so whether that user ID exists in actually in the database or not. So this is the thing which I'm searching for, and then if I just find it, I'll just just display the balance. Now let us have a look at the bad solution for this transaction. So what happens is, like, atomicity of the database needs to be maintained, right? So if I am having 1,000 rupees, and then some let's say A and B, they are having 1,000 rupees each, and 100 needs to be transferred from A to B. So B would remain with 900, and at the same time A would remain with 900, and B would get updated to 1100, right? Now this is the thing that has been done finally. So now here what can happen is, first, firstly I'm just finding out, like, there needs to be two things, right? Firstly the user needs to be authenticated. Now the two things that I'm trying to get is the person to whom the money needs to be transferred and the amount that needs to be transferred. So if the person is not found, the person who is to be transferred the money, the person to whose account that money needs to be transferred, then it would say that it's just an invalid account. First thing. Second thing, that if the person who is sending the balance has less amount than the actual amount that is needed to be sent, then definitely it would say that it has insufficient balance is present. Now, await account dot update one. This means that I am updating the account of the person who is receiving the money. So definitely, I'll just use the inbuilt function of the MongoDB, that is update one. So this user ID needs to be extracted, right? Like I'm going to search it with this user ID, and then I'll just increase the balance by this amount. And same in a similar fashion, in a similar way, the person who is trying to give the money needs to be reduced. Oh, I guess I have done some mistake over here. The user ID 2. This needs to be increased. User ID uh, request dot user ID, and this needs to be minus amount. So basically, this is the user ID that I have stored in this user ID is the user ID which I have stored inside my user ID variable, while making this middleware for authorization. So this is that the user ID, and then I'm extracting it out inside the variable. I'm putting it inside the variable user ID, and then I've just increased the balance. Increase the balance by minus. That means that it is anyways going to decrease the amount. So this is the thing, and then I'm just sending the final message that transaction is successful. Now this can be a thing. Now the problematic thing in the situation is, let's say the request gets hung over here, right? Let us say it is going to find this, and the like the request, it gets hung over there. So a person might try to have two or three transactions concurrently, because a particular operation has gotten hung over here. So it would automatically take a more amount of a time to get it would automatically take more time to um, to follow the request. So now as soon as the next request comes in, it also gets hung over here. So a person might have 2 to 3 transactions at the minimum, at a very minimum time possible. So if a person has a very minimum time possible, if a person hits the request in a very minimum time as possible, so it might so happen that the person ends up transferring money that is more than the money that he actually has in the bank account. So this means that we need to have a, like a way we need to have a particular way in which the transaction that is happening, it either needs to be like completed, or it needs to be aborted, like nothing in between that. And this is the first thing that we need to keep in mind during transaction, that if a particular person has debited the money from his account, then that amount of money needs to be credited into the database of some other person. So this we need to keep in mind. This is the first thing. The second thing is that if a particular operation happens in the first place, then definitely it should not happen that a person got debited, the person's money got debited, and the person who, let's say, a person has 150 rupees in his bank account, it should not happen that 160 rupees gets transferred, because in that way the database amount would go in negative. Like this would be the conclusion of what is happening, but why it should not happen, the basic thing is that whenever that person is trying to send money, he can send it concurrently. Like if a person has 150 rupees, so let's say he sends 140, and because the request it gets hung over here, now it is not able to bypass this, because it is like it this is an asynchronous call, so it takes time. So now what happens is, for the next time when this gets transferred, it may so happen that the amount has not been yet deducted from here, but the operation is still valid. The operation is still valid, but the amount has not yet gotten reduced. So it may so happen that more than one transaction in a limited amount of time can result in the balance going negative, or the funds, more amounts of fund can be transferred than the fund which is actually present. So we need to like handle this thing. So this is the second feature which we need to handle. Firstly, the amount debited should be equal to the amount credited, and secondly, it should not happen that a person is able to send more than what is present. So we do this using the abort transaction and holding sessions and abort transaction and commit transactions. So the better bit solution is present over here. So this is the bad solution. Now this is the better approach of doing it. I'm starting a session. Once the session started, I'll start the transaction. Now the transactions can have several phases, like starting the transaction, aborting the transaction, and committing the transaction. End session. Uh, uh, I think there needs to be a an ending session over here, which I have not yet added. Start session, and then I think end session needs to be there.